We win Pennsylvania. We win this great Commonwealth. We are going to win the whole ballgame. It's such an important place.
Okay, so here's the thing, Pennsylvania. We got just 22 days until Election Day. 22 days.
21 days now, which is why both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump spent yesterday crisscrossing Pennsylvania, because both campaigns know this swing state is ground zero. If you don't win here, you don't win the White House. But just like the state's all-American snack, the pretzel, many voters here are in a bind, still undecided as to who to vote for.
I'll decide when I'm in the voting booth.
Really? You'll wait till then?
I will wait till then because there's a lot of stuff that can happen between now and then.
Tim Snyder doubles as the owner of this pretzel bakery and the town's Republican mayor, but even he can't make up his mind. People would expect the mayor of this town, a Republican mayor, to vote for Donald Trump.
I voted for him twice, but I'm not crazy about the way he handles himself.
So you're genuinely undecided?
I am undecided at this particular time.
Crisscross your ends.
A group of locals arrive for a tour. Among them, we meet Kay Nazarchik, another coveted swing voter, who went for Biden last time and Trump before that. But this time around? Do you yet know who you are voting for?
No, I don't.
No idea of the two?
Well, no.
She says she's leaning towards Harris, but she's nervous about the vice president's lack of experience on the world stage.
I worry about foreign policy. Yeah, that's my biggest thing. Like what's going to happen down in the Mideast, what's going to happen with Iran, what's going to happen with China. That does worry me.
The election may be just 3 weeks away, but those voters are the perfect snapshot of electoral indecision that makes Pennsylvania so critical and explains why polling here has Trump and Harris locked in a dead heat and why both candidates have, between them, made nearly 50 stops here so far, the most of any state. In 2016, Pennsylvania voted for Donald Trump. In 2020, it swung to Joe Biden. This time round, the race is so tight, it's simply too close to call. But there's one demographic that both candidates believe could make all the difference. Just up the road, we've come to a salsa class in the city of Reading, where the majority population, 70%, is Latino, the group Trump and Harris are desperately courting. Do you know who you're going to vote for?
Harris.
I'm going to vote Democrat, so I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris.
They've decided. Others have too, and the answer is neither candidate.
I'm a registered Republican, but I am not voting for Trump. This might be a little controversial, but his support for Israel and the war in Gaza, that's like a deal breaker for me.
Is that not Kamala Harris then, if you're not voting for Trump?
I definitely don't trust Kamala Harris.
The latest polling does show Harris's support among Latinos is weaker than Joe Biden's, but stronger than Trump's, which is why he set up office here to try and draw Latino voters to him with simple messaging he hopes will stick. Some of it seems to be working, if this first-time voters' view of Kamala Harris is anything to go by.
I feel like she's very, two-faced. I feel like all the stuff she says she's going to do, she's not going to do. Because right now, since she's vice president right now, and she's not doing anything right now. It's not even just me. It's, a bunch of, my friends that don't even want to vote, because we just don't have a good option for either.
Harris's vice president pick, Tim Walz, came to this Latino-owned restaurant in the city earlier this month to make the point, in his words, that the path to the White House could run right through here. A message the town's first Latino mayor, sitting in the same restaurant, was keen to emphasize.
It's not a secret that the next presidential nominee could potentially be decided right here in the city of Reading. That's why I have been in contact with the Harris campaign to ask specifically that she would make a visit to the city of Reading so that they could see that we are paying attention to.
The message, ignore the Latino vote at your peril. But with early voting already underway here, the polls in Pennsylvania may already be baked in, setting up one of the closest presidential races of all time.
Siobhan Kennedy reporting from Pennsylvania. Well, joining me now is Peter Loge, who was a senior advisor in the Obama administration and is now a professor of media and public affairs at George Washington University. Peter, thanks for coming on the program again. We've got so much to go through and we only have 4 minutes, but let me start with this. We're always told in America to follow the money. Well, the money seems to be pouring in for Kamala Harris to the tune of $1 billion since she was announced. And Trump has got, 330 million, I think. So how come they are neck and neck in the polls?
I think because the voters of America are split. A lot of people know Donald Trump. They know him well. They've got strong opinions, and many of those opinions are in favor of him. In many ways, Vice President Harris and certainly Governor Walz are still introducing themselves to the American people. A lot of that money is come meet me money that the Harris-Walz campaign is spending.
And I wonder if one of the big conundrums that Kamala Harris faces is that she's both trying to be an agent of change. She's a woman of color. They've never had a president like that before, but she's also part of the incumbent team. And that is a circle that she cannot square.
Yeah, that is absolutely a challenge for Harris and for Walz. It's also a challenge for Trump, right? I mean, he's already been president once. So you have an incumbent president who skipped a term running against an incumbent vice president, both trying to run as outsiders who are new to Washington. It is an odd situation.
Now, what about those Latino voters that were featured in Siobhan's piece? If you look at the elections, ever since the turn of the century, they seem to be, they started off as Democrats, they were firmly in the Democrat camp, and with every election, they're moving towards the Republicans. And that is a challenge for Kamala Harris. Why do you think that is?
I think there are a couple of reasons. The first thing to note is Latin Americans come from a wide range of countries across with South of America, Central America, Mexico, Latin America. There's something like 665 million people who live in Latin America, which isn't that far away from how many people live in Europe. To say there's a Latin American vote is like saying that people from France, Germany, and Spain are the same, and they're obviously not. The second thing to note is that Latin American voters, like most voters in America, care a lot about the price of gas and groceries. They're worried about inflation. They're worried about crime. They're worried about healthcare costs. They're worried about the same things the rest of us are. And even in all of that, Harris is still winning the Latino vote close to 2-1. So her support is down a smidge from Biden 4 years ago, according to current polling, but she's still really outpacing Trump there.
But they're also socially quite conservative, aren't they? Many of them.
Many, yeah. I mean, again, to say they across Latin America is like saying they across Europeans. But yeah, a lot of Latin Americans come from Catholic countries that are strongly socially conservative. Many are pro-law and order. And many live in neighborhoods that are ravaged by crime. People who live in areas ravaged by crime tend to support law enforcement. They're all looking for jobs, and they've all got to buy gas and groceries just like the rest of us.
Okay. And I mean, there's so many people who are worried about the election result, whoever wins, because it might be contested. Do you share those fears?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There are already lawsuits going on now. They anticipate many more lawsuits. I fully expect Donald Trump to declare victory on election night, regardless of what the results say and whether or not all the votes have been counted. And by that point, all the votes most certainly won't have been counted. And again, regardless of what election officials say, one can imagine Donald Trump will sue. The suits will likely fail, as they have in the past. But we're in, when the voting stops, the litigation begins.
And could there be trouble on the streets, briefly?
I imagine there might be, right? Donald Trump is once again setting up a scene for violence. He's already saying the election is rigged. Trump never admits defeat. And if he loses, he's already told people it's because it's rigged and we have to siege the country. He's really seeding a really unpleasant and dangerous environment.
Peter Loge, thank you very much.